the courtroom settled into silence as Judge Judy reviewed the case file sitting in front of her. On the surface, it looked like a simple neighborhood dispute over property damage, but within minutes, it became obvious this case involved far more than a dented truck. Henry and Gina Robichaux were suing their neighbors, Suzanne and Jeffrey Farley, after their 17-year-old son, Joshua, punched Henry's truck during a heated confrontation. The Farleys, however, had filed a counterclaim of their own. According to them, Joshua only damaged the truck after Henry assaulted him first and left him injured. What began as an ordinary school pickup had somehow escalated into road rage, threats, shouting, police involvement, and physical violence between a grown man and a teenager. Judge Judy immediately leaned forward, knowing there was much more to uncover beneath the surface. Henry Robichaux explained that the incident started while he was driving to pick up his son from school. Joshua Farley, who lived nearby and occasionally helped him with yard work, was riding along in the truck. Henry admitted he accidentally cut another driver off while changing lanes on a busy road. According to him, the other driver became furious, started honking aggressively, and pulled up beside his truck. Henry claimed he saw the man reach into his glove compartment and pull out what looked like a weapon. At first, Henry believed it was a firearm, but later realized it was actually a taser. Fear immediately took over. He slammed on his brakes and allowed the angry driver to pass. But instead of the situation ending there, everything only became worse. Henry said the road split shortly afterward, causing the other vehicle to continue straight while he turned toward the school, believing the confrontation was over. He continued driving to pick up his son, but when he arrived near the school area, he suddenly noticed the same driver again. According to Henry, the man had parked nearby and stepped out of his vehicle, holding the taser in his hand. Judge Judy immediately interrupted him, carefully questioning the exact location where this happened. She wanted clarity because his story seemed inconsistent. At first, Henry implied he stopped near the school entrance, surrounded by parents and traffic. But after repeated questioning, he finally admitted he had actually pulled over about a block away from the school. Judge Judy immediately noticed the contradiction. In her mind, Henry had intentionally stopped near the other driver instead of simply avoiding the situation altogether. Joshua Farley then described what he remembered seeing. He explained that while they were approaching the curb area near the school, Henry mentioned someone walking toward the truck. Joshua confirmed the man was carrying a taser in his hand. Instead of remaining inside the vehicle, Joshua decided to get out and ask the man what he wanted. Judge Judy asked him directly why he would step into such a dangerous confrontation. Joshua calmly answered that he simply wanted to understand what was happening. He insisted he did not charge aggressively or threaten anyone. According to him, he apologized to the driver and explained they were simply late, trying to pick up Henry's son from school. But tensions were already too high. The argument quickly intensified between the adults. Joshua testified that Henry then climbed out of the truck and grabbed a large wooden board from the back. Judge Judy immediately focused on that detail. A 2x4 board, in an already tense road rage situation, dramatically escalated the danger. Joshua explained that the two men began shouting at each other while the taser remained visible. Henry claimed He only grabbed the board to protect Joshua from possibly being tased, but Judge Judy was clearly unimpressed with his reasoning. She pointed out that introducing another weapon into the situation only increased the chances of violence. Instead of calling the police or driving away, Henry had chosen to physically involve himself in the confrontation. Joshua continued explaining that the other driver eventually threatened to call the police. At that moment, Henry returned to the truck and demanded Joshua get back inside so they could leave immediately. But Joshua refused, because he believed contacting authorities was the right thing to do after weapons had been involved. Henry drove off anyway, leaving Joshua behind with the angry driver while he continued toward the school to pick up his son. Judge Judy immediately reacted strongly to that revelation. She found it unbelievable that Henry would leave a 17-year-old behind in the middle of a dangerous confrontation after claiming he was trying to protect him. Henry insisted he believed the situation had calmed down once the taser was put away, but Judge Judy clearly saw major flaws in his judgment. After the incident near the school ended, police became involved because witnesses nearby had apparently contacted authorities about the disturbance. Henry later discovered police had left a card at his home requesting contact regarding the road rage incident. That discovery infuriated him. According to Henry, he became angry that Joshua had stayed behind to cooperate with police instead of simply leaving with him. So Henry called Joshua and asked him to come over to discuss what happened. Judge Judy immediately understood the real issue. Henry was upset because Joshua's actions meant law enforcement would now become involved in the situation, something Henry clearly wanted to avoid from the beginning. Joshua arrived at Henry's house later that day. At first, the conversation focused on why Joshua had stayed behind. Joshua explained again that he believed calling 911 was the responsible thing to do after seeing weapons involved. He testified that Henry became increasingly upset and raised his voice during the conversation. Joshua tried defending his actions, saying he had been raised to contact police when dangerous situations happened instead of ignoring them. The argument quickly escalated inside the house. Eventually, Joshua decided to leave. As he walked out, he slammed the front door behind him in frustration. According to Joshua, Henry immediately followed him outside, yelling about the slammed door. Joshua said he tried walking away from the property, but then turned back to ask about money. He believed Henry still owed him for work he had done. He also mentioned a dirt bike Henry had allegedly promised him. The conversation deteriorated rapidly. Joshua called for his parents, while Henry continued approaching him angrily. Joshua admitted that, in frustration, he punched Henry's truck, causing the dent that became the basis of the lawsuit. Judge Judy then turned her attention to the physical injury Joshua claimed he suffered. Joshua explained that during the argument, Henry struck him in the face, causing swelling around his eye. Although he did not bring medical records to court, he insisted he had visited Kaiser Permanente Hospital for treatment, and photographs had been taken there documenting the injury. Joshua's mother later testified she personally saw her son shortly after the confrontation. She described his hand bleeding from punching the truck, and his eye visibly swollen. She also recalled both sides still shouting at each other while tensions remained extremely high. Henry, however, completely denied punching Joshua intentionally. Instead, he claimed. Joshua swung first and somehow injured himself after Henry blocked the punch. Judge Judy immediately challenged the explanation because it sounded absurd. Henry awkwardly insisted Joshua's own hand somehow bounced back and caused the facial injury. The courtroom reaction made it clear very few people found that explanation believable. Judge Judy became increasingly frustrated with Henry's refusal to fully accept responsibility for his role in escalating the situation. She then carefully reviewed Henry's decisions step by step. He had been speeding because he left late to pick up his son. He admitted cutting another vehicle off. He engaged with an angry driver instead of avoiding the confrontation. He pulled over near the same vehicle instead of driving safely away. He introduced a wooden board into an already dangerous argument involving a taser. And finally, he involved a teenager in the entire confrontation. Judge Judy reminded Henry repeatedly that, as the adult, especially with a minor in the vehicle, he was expected to behave responsibly. Henry attempted to defend himself by insisting he only acted out of fear after seeing the taser. But Judge Judy rejected that reasoning. She pointed out that Henry almost certainly had a cell phone and could easily have called authorities instead of grabbing a 2x4. Even if he did not have his phone, there were countless other parents and vehicles nearby where he could have sought help. Instead, he escalated the conflict physically. To Judge Judy, that behavior demonstrated poor judgment from start to finish. As the hearing continued, Judge Judy became more direct and harsh in her assessment. She told Henry that although he clearly believed he handled the situation correctly, the facts showed otherwise. She explained that adults have a responsibility to de-escalate dangerous situations, particularly when minors are present. In her opinion, Henry failed repeatedly at making safe and responsible decisions throughout the encounter. Finally, Judge Judy delivered her ruling. She dismissed Henry's claim entirely, refusing to award him money for the truck damage. Instead, she ruled in favor of Joshua Farley on the counterclaim and awarded him $500. The courtroom atmosphere immediately shifted. Henry looked stunned and frustrated, while Joshua and his parents quietly accepted the decision. Judge Judy made it crystal clear that the ruling was not simply about a dented truck. It was about accountability, maturity, and the responsibility adults carry during moments of conflict. But the courtroom drama did not end there. Almost immediately, another emotional case stepped forward involving 20-year-old Jorge Cardenas and 22-year-old Jennifer Aguilera. The former couple shared a child together and had spent years living under the same roof while trying to build a life as young parents. Now their relationship had collapsed completely, leaving them fighting over property, money, and responsibility. Jorge claimed Jennifer refused to return expensive items he purchased during their relationship, including electronics, furniture, a television, and a computer. Jennifer argued the property belonged to both of them because everything had been paid from shared accounts while they lived together. Jorge admitted he had emptied part of their joint account after moving out, but insisted he later repaid much of the money through direct payments to Jennifer. Judge Judy immediately shut down attempts to untangle years of shared finances between an unmarried couple. She bluntly explained that courts are not designed to sort through every financial detail of young couples who decide to play house without legal marriage protections. In her view, both parties willfully mixed finances without formal agreements, creating exactly the kind of chaos now sitting in her courtroom. Jennifer argued that if Jorge reclaimed all the furniture and electronics, she and their child would have almost nothing left inside the home. Judge Judy responded sharply, pointing out that Jorge was not legally obligated to continue furnishing Jennifer's home simply because they once lived together. She emphasized repeatedly that his primary legal obligation was supporting his child, not maintaining his ex-girlfriend's lifestyle. When Jennifer admitted she currently did not have a job, Judge Judy bluntly told her that if she wanted furniture and stability, she needed employment and independence rather than relying on Jorge indefinitely. Jor confirmed he was still paying off many of the items through credit accounts in his own name. Judge Judy therefore ruled he had the right to retrieve the property within 5 days. Jennifer attempted arguing about the television and computer, but Judge Judy dismissed the debate quickly. If Jorge remained financially responsible for the items, then, legally, the property belonged to him. The judge ordered Jennifer to allow him access to collect everything. Throughout the second case, emotions clearly remained raw between the young parents. Jennifer expressed frustration that Jorge was not spending enough time with their daughter, while Jorge insisted he wanted involvement but felt pushed away. Judge Judy refused to let the hearing become an emotional argument about their failed relationship. Instead, she focused strictly on legal responsibility and practical reality. By the end of the hearing, both parties left visibly upset, but Judge Judy's message remained consistent. Personal relationships may fall apart, but responsibility and accountability do not disappear with them.